I'm now going to kick off our first brand case study, driving success through cross-functional collaborations with Team Edible. And I'd like to invite our moderator up, Kristen Pahacek. I did it, said the name right. And panel to the stage.
When I got asked to moderate this, I was like, yeah, yes, put me in the morning. I will make everybody wake up. But also, with who? And I heard edibles, and I was like, this is awesome. I want to meet this team. I haven't met any of you prior to today. And then I learned about the topic that you guys are going to talk about. And if you've ever talked to me, I am super passionate about the silos that exist between franchise development and marketing in particular. And that's what today is all about, is talking about how you guys have broken down the silos in your organization. And so I know we all have them, and I can't wait to learn more about how you've accomplished cross-collaboration with everything that you have going on in your brand. So I'd love to introduce you to the team. I'll let you kind of just go through and introduce yourselves.
Yeah, well, we're equally excited to be here and with all of you. My name is Erica Randerson, Chief Digital Officer at Edible Brands, so responsible for our websites, apps, and really all things digital under the portfolio of the company.
Good morning, I'm Kevin Keith, our Chief Marketing Officer at Edible Brands, and I'm responsible for all of the marketing, of course, the advertising you just saw, and pretty much anything that touches a customer, so that's me.
Hi, my name is Faraz Iqbal, CTO at Edible Brands, so responsible for all technology at the company, so anything related to our front end on the e-commerce side, store technologies and corporate technologies and security and whatnot as well.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Doug Knox. I'm the company's Chief Legal and Compliance Officer, and essentially I protect the legal interest of the company and of all of its subsidiaries.
And he keeps us all in line.
Yes. You know, you can throw something at us if we get out of line, or we don't want to get you sued. So we're going to start. Kevin's going to kind of bring us through a little bit of what you saw in the video and how you guys have transitioned post-COVID into all of the things and have really taken your brand from a legacy brand, which of course it still is, but have added in modern approaches to how to align to the consumer. So Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, great. I mean, what's funny is, Kristen, last year was our 25th anniversary. So we celebrated at Disney with our franchisees, had a great time, and it's just dramatic to see all the changes we've had, even the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. And you can see we've obviously gone way beyond just the arrangements. 7 years ago, we unceremoniously removed arrangements from our vocabulary, and now we're really catching up to what that really means. And a lot of our efforts now, from a marketing standpoint especially, we're really trying to showcase just the new edible. And even in that video, you just saw our new stores, so we're building next generation stores that really are more shoppable and sit in, have a coffee. We have a really exciting flagship being built here in Atlanta that's going to open later this year. So a lot of great things happening.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know we have some slides to flip through. Hold on, sorry guys. Do you want to take this and show us a little more? I think that will do it.
All right. So there's our founder there on the right. That's Tariq Farid. He founded this 25 years ago. Obviously, the simple concept that was really radical at the time. He had a background in floral, and he just transitioned it to, hey, I'll make something edible. And now we have edible arrangements, of course. We just passed the baton about, a year and a half ago now with his daughter, Somia, there on the left there, and she's now our CEO. Fantastic, very visionary, and it truly is a generational moment where really, her perspective is very different from Tariq, and they really complement each other. So really kind of transitioning to a new era. And then on the right there, you can see our next generation store in Connecticut that just opened. Digital, and Erica's done a wonderful job, and her team really bring us into truly the modern age of gifting. There's a lot of innovations going on there. Our retail stores, we have loads of stores. I really like to think about the reach. We can touch just about every zip code you can imagine with hand delivery. So really trying to innovate in that area. Yes, we do sell edibles. You may have noticed we launched a couple months ago edibles.com, and it's really a premium marketplace for really high quality hemp-derived THC products. And we'll be launching nationwide shipping in the states that Doug will allow. But these are all really high-quality products and really reframing what it means to sell and consume edibles and be really a leader and an educator of the category. Believe it or not, the fastest-growing segment are 50+. So people in my cohort, basically. And then last, we acquired Roti. Roti is a much better kava. Sorry if anyone from kava in here, but they're company owned, so I think I'm safe. But it's wonderful that we have 17 locations. They really went through a rough time with COVID, but they're a wonderful concept. So we're really integrating into the company now, and we're gonna be franchising them soon. So you'll be hearing more about that, so stay tuned there.
Awesome. Okay, thank you very much. I think one of the things that, as an emerging CEO, I want to prevent is something that you have really perfected in terms of, again, breaking down those silos and making sure that your teams are aligned. How many corporate employees do you have?
We're a little over 100.
So yeah, that's big. That's big. So when you're talking cross-departmentally, can you tell us a little bit about the cadence and how you make sure that you're all in line with what you're doing across all of your brands?
Yeah, I'll kick us off. I go home and I'll be telling my husband about our day, and he is constantly like, "So you had meetings with legal, marketing, I mean, you're just so cross-functional. It feels like every day." And I'm like, yeah, like almost every meeting we have is a cross-functional meeting. So we're very intentional about that. So one of the ways, we'll talk through a couple of the ways. One of the ways that we do that, we hold bi-weekly sales meetings specific to digital and retail. So we do view ourselves as two different kind of business units operating under the Edible brand. So those sales meetings are not sitting in front of PowerPoint slides looking at what were sales for last week. They're a little bit of that, but then it's very action-oriented across every vertical of the company. So what are we doing within each vertical of digital marketing? What are we doing from operations, innovation, e-commerce? And we're also learning from each other, because there may be something that Matt Azimi, our director of paid social, says that sparks this idea for our innovation team. And what we don't do is let that idea happen and either go unsaid. We're very like, if you have an idea, let's hear it. But we also don't just let the idea be said with no action. So there's always a follow through of, okay, we did have this conversation that was great. What are the next steps? And so it's a lot about, yes, being cross-functional, but also holding accountability, because I think that makes sure the silos don't disappear. Because it can be one thing to kind of get them broken down, but to keep them broken down, I think, is the next hard part. So really having a format and a forum, and for us, I think just a way of working together that allows that to continue. But there are many other ways.
Yeah, and I think, to Erica's point, to build on that, our job as leaders is to really help the teams know where to focus.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities to say, hey, we want to do this, this, and this, but at the end of the day, we have to do one thing usually a week. And we really that's a sprint. So we really focus on that because the world moves very fast, obviously. And for us, that's lost business. We don't action that. So try to really give them direction and focus so they know exactly where the focus is for the week.
Okay. I want to poke at this a little bit. Talk a little bit about your sprints and how those are organized, because I don't think that a lot of people in this room know what a sprint is. So can you dive in a little bit more as to how you
start on the 0-yard line and you run.
I want to race.
No, all joking aside, it's really bringing a smaller team in, like little ninjas. We just heard the word ninjas. I kind of think of them that way, that are experts in their various areas and disciplines. It's quick, so we're measuring in maybe days and weeks. We're not measuring in months. And with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So it could be, Erica, help me here. What's a good example of that recently?
So we've been looking at Canada, where we have a presence in Canada,
perfect.
and opportunities to optimize there. And so that small digital team that I just mentioned was a cross-functional team. We've been talking about across the website, across operations, across innovation, how can we optimize? We're having a meeting on a Monday. We're aligning on what were the great ideas that came out. And so by Thursday, you show up and come to that next meeting with, here's how I'm actioning. And it's okay if the update is, I'm in progress on these things. We're not expecting magic overnight. But we are not letting that drop. Like, it literally remains a bullet on the last slide of our deck until it is done. And we can say we're proud of this. And it's honestly stealing a page out of Faraz's book. Like, a sprint is a technical team's term. But I think we've adopted it beyond just our technical teams, because it really does hold the accountability piece in place.
Yeah, and just to add on that, I mean, it's all about moving in iteration. So we don't have to be perfect, right? But we have to make sure that we have what we need to move forward. And so part of the things what we do in tech, what we try to do align up with the business is we run our 2-week sprints. And during those times, the business comes up with, hey, we need these things, or what are some of the key things that we need to get out into the market. And so by having those 2-week sprints, you can make adjustments. You could say, okay, we were saying these things, now let's pull something in. We might have to drop something, but we're, again, staying aligned with what the business needs are, not kind of locking it down, saying, okay, well, now we got to wait 2 months or 3 months as an example. So it's a really cool way of just kind of staying on your toes and kind of continuously, it is a continuous run with some water breaks in between, but it's a pretty good run.
Yeah.
Awesome. So when you're doing your cross collaboration, you're having these meetings. I mean, immediately in my head, I'm like, more meetings. Two things come to mind. Are you doing stand-ups or like quick update? Like, how are these structured? You mentioned a deck. Are you putting a deck together every week in order to brief the team?
There is a
What does that
deck,
look
but
like?
let me back up a little bit from a macro level with the whole company. We have a unique tradition every Wednesday called our huddle, company huddle. So that is where everyone in the company comes together. And
Everybody, 100 people.
the entire company.
Every week.
We do it every Wednesday. It's
Okay.
pretty unique. I think it's really one of our great traditions.
An expensive meeting and worth every penny.
It is. It's a very expensive meeting, but it's usually 30 minutes. Sometimes it creeps to 45, but we share wows, like who's doing a great job, who's done something extraordinary, and it could be someone in the field, it could be someone in the corporate office. We're also talking about our key objectives and how we're tracking with that, or any kind of new information. So it's really a great communication forum. And then when you break it down into kind of the weekly cadence, yes, we have PowerPoint, but I always tell my teams, this is not about making PowerPoints. We're about making great work and making the consumer feel an emotion for us. So at the end of the day, if you're making PowerPoints, that's not what I want you to do. I want you to be thinking about innovation and how we can solve the problems we identify or opportunities, and let's move quick. So.
Who organizes this? Like, who is in charge of those meetings and making sure that everybody from departmental standpoint is bringing forward the content? Is this your CEO, or how does this work? Project manager?
I run our sales meetings, and that's for the digital business unit specifically. But I think, and we've kind of anchored there, but I also want to broaden that to say each of us with our departments are also running some sort of cadence. For my team, it's a Monday stand-up, and it is the 15 minutes, what's your priority for the week? And I'm sure for legal and technology and marketing, it looks differently. So, but to that point of that larger cross-functional one, yeah, there's a PowerPoint deck, but it's me putting it together as a framework, and it's not intended for everyone in the company to go run around and spend an hours before the meeting pulling this content together. It's meant to just structure the time. But I know our teams all operate a little differently with how we handle our
Right. I mean, I do go-to-market every week. So my, senior director of marketing, she organized, her and I align on what's the big thing, and it's cross-functional, so it's every week. So it's really coming through a marketing lens and making sure we're all ready to go for launching something. So that's really important too, but I wouldn't discount teams. We communicate constantly over teams. We'll label who's the group, who's the sprint, whoever you want to call it, on an initiative, and we use that as a real-time communication tool, and I think that's pretty effective. That's why I'm terrible at email, because I'm so focused on teams.
Awesome.
I think one of the things that work really well too, so we use the teams a lot. We do a lot of asynchronous type communication. It's like, hey, you don't necessarily need to have a meeting. You can talk on Teams and get through what you need to. The other thing is we are in office. And I think that plays a really big advantage, because one of the things I can do is we can just walk over and have a conversation. And that you get a lot of synergies just from that. A lot of organic things come out of that as well too. And that also reduces meetings as well, because if I walk by and have a conversation with Kevin, we don't have to have a meeting on something. It's just a 2-minute conversation as an example. So that also kind of helps out as well too.
And Doug, how big is your team? Are you the one-man shop?
No, we have
safe?
our legal and compliance department. We have 3 attorneys, 2 paralegals, and then 4 compliance specialists.
Oh, okay.
So we meet weekly to discuss our goals for the department for the week, what we're working on, and then the executive team will meet once a week, and different departments meet at different cadences, but it all flows into the goals that we set the prior year for the following year. We'll have an annual operating plan, and then the leadership team will meet really weekly to discuss sub-goals that tie into those goals, and then we'll each meet with our department or interdepartment on certain aspects of that. So we also have weekly store meetings, which is a combination of people from the legal department, development, and operations to discuss store issues. Erica talked about the sales meeting, which is interdepartmental. So we're always realigning on the goals, trying to keep our eye on the ball of the annual goals that we've set for the year.
And I think to Doug's point, that starting at the top with Soumya setting a very clear AOP that every one of our executive leaders understands backwards and forwards, it's what makes my team, really all of our teams, feel more comfortable to say, we're going to go we have this crazy promotion idea. We're going to go ahead and include Angel in the first meeting, and that sits on Doug's team, so that we don't get 6 months down the road on this, and then legal goes, yeah, you absolutely can't do this. So I also think, if you can get in that mindset of not operating in silos, it's going to save you a lot of time, because you're actually pulling in the partners that you really need to be successful far earlier in.
Yeah.
I think what Doug does really well on his team is, I've been in a lot of environments and franchise brands where that's where great ideas go to die. And actually, I think in our experience. In our experience now, they actually solve for, like, how do we solve for a yes on this one?
Yeah.
And I think they're great partners, and it's kind of a unique relationship, I think, from other companies I've been in. So I think that's been a really big accelerator in getting great things done, because otherwise, oh no, we can't do that. They usually solve for yes, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it is very clear that Edible has done a great job at hiring execs that don't say no first. Because for me, like, I don't want legal in the room sometimes. I don't want my CFO in the room sometimes. Sometimes I just want to not have that.
Right.
But if you have somebody who says yes first, we'll figure it out, then that sets it up for success. And again, proactively prevents further work down the road. So I love that. Good job, Doug. No no's from you, usually. The other thing that I'm thinking about is you guys, you were a franchise for 25 years. And not only now are you platforming your brand, but in and outside of the franchise space. Where does operations fit in on this? And do you have anybody who is unique to brands and then shared services? Or talk a little bit about how that's structured.
Yeah, it's very much shared services.
Okay.
For us, Kevin and I, we work for all of the brands. Erica works on the e-commerce component of all of the brands. So for the most part, most of us are working for all of the brands. We have some people who are focused solely on one brand, but everything we do really is shared services, and it's all for the common purpose. These brands seem somewhat divergent, but they all exist under the same umbrella because there is a synergy there. What does hemp have to do with edible arrangements? Well, I mean, again, we had the trademark edible for years, and our founder initially did not like the fact that CBD products were called edibles, and after fighting that for years, he realized he wasn't going to win, so we're going to join them. And again, it's turned out to be very complementary. Yeah. We have a brand now that is focused on health and wellness, which ties into our gifting. So it all flows together, and we have to be on the same page and achieve synergy.
I think it's helpful too that we all are wearing that hat across all of our brands, because that allows for conversations to be very rare, in which Faraz is going, well, wait a minute, Erica, my number one priority is this. So and yours is this. How do we meet in the middle? As an executive team, we know priority 1 through 5, and my priority for Edible.com may be 5 or not even on the top 5 list, but we're all aware of that. And it doesn't mean that my team is not going to continue moving that work forward, but I do think, just back to that AOP, the fact that we're all rooted into that, and as we sit here as the executive team, we are shared services. That really helps.
I can give you a recent example if you'd like.
Please.
So I mentioned earlier Roti, the modern Mediterranean we acquired. Edible, one of our objectives is get people to know Edible again. So trial is really important. So in a month's time, you'll see us in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We're going to have a stand for Roti, and we're going to have edible carts where you can get chocolate chip strawberry. So that would never have happened together if we didn't really think horizontally as an edible brands leader. So, and it touches all of us. There'll be a digital component to it, obviously a marketing component, heavy operational component, heavy tech. So, and right now, Doug's in the legal component, managing the final I's and T's to be crossed on that. But that's kind of where we try to find, I hate the word synergies, but we really do, how we can really build on what Eric was talking about, to build on the AOP and find opportunities as and where we can to create that.
Yeah, it's very clear you guys are operating from a similar playbook, right? You're very aligned, which is great. What about your franchisees? Because if I was a franchisee of Edible, what I would ask is, how do I make sure that I still get you when you're doing all of these other things? How do they feel about it, and how have you messaged that?
Carefully.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's something that we're very careful about. Look, we all believe as a team, a rising brand lifts all boats. And so I think in this modern age of digital, it has to be important and being relevant to the customer. It will impact them as well. I think for them, we're really being more intentional with communication. I think for years, being honest, we weren't that great at communication. Now we have monthly webinars, Edible Nation. It's interactive. Ask me or anyone on the team any question you want. If we don't answer it, we'll email it back to you later. Weekly communication through the Store Growth Gazette. We'll explain to them, you're going to see this in the news, and we'll explain to you why. and here's why it's great for you. So, and then we'll get, I'm sure Somya and all of us, we get calls occasionally, and we get visits to the office, and never turn them down, always have those conversations, and explain to them, and usually they walk out saying, wow, this is going to be great. So our convention's coming up, and we'll probably touch on it again next month.
Yeah, we're very transparent in that communication with our franchisees. I mean, that door is always open, and something that really shocked me about one of Edible's first conventions was, what I love is that we started the whole event, like first thing 8 a.m. Monday morning, the entire executive team got on the stage, and it was free-form Q&A. And that's scary, right? Like, that's, you don't know what's gonna come at you, and you're at a room full of your franchisees that some of who you may not have talked to in a while, or you've heard a lot from. And so I think that just goes to show the tone that Tarek and now Somya have set of we are here to not have scripts and to truly be here for you. And I think that lives out day in, day out, but it's a big part.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, franchisees are our customers as well, right? So you have the customer who consumes, but we also have franchisee who are customers, and so we have to make sure that we're providing that level of customer service to them so they feel like that they're being cared for as well. And like, on the tech side, even what we also do is when we're looking at technologies, it's sometimes like, well, why are you focusing on that? How is that going to help me? Well, as we're bringing on these brands, we're also looking at our tech stack and saying, okay, making sure we have synergies going horizontally. So we can make sure that if I'm focusing on something, it actually helps all the brands, not just one brand in particular. And so that kind of helps us, the horizontal thinking makes a big difference in terms of giving importance to franchisees as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, an e-commerce question here, because if I'm speaking for the room here, we can all kind of say that franchising is not great for e-commerce. It's really tough to figure out e-commerce and have a franchise brand do it really well. And when you start to think about, like, how does that impact the franchisees, and they want a little bit of it, and how have you navigated that? Because you're doing a fair amount of e-commerce. Are franchisees benefiting from that?
Oh, absolutely. We are a business unit. The e-commerce business unit is for our franchisees.
Okay.
And so what we've really done is, Tarek, we were on the internet as the internet was being created. So we have been an internet-based company for a long time, and it's funny, you can go to these sites and find the website, from what it looked like 20 years ago. And we had online ordering when that was literally unheard of, when people were like, I'm not gonna go to Amazon and give them my credit card because you just don't do those types of things. So we've always been pretty cutting edge when it comes to technology. How I view my team is, if we were an independent D2C e-commerce brand, we would need a 3PL. Our franchise system is my 3PL. So they are our fulfillment centers for everything that we do. And one of the reasons, when I go to e-commerce industry conferences, people are always a little surprised, like, why is Edible here? And they don't realize that we do a majority of the business for our franchise system, pulling in those orders from online, because that's the way people shop. We're competing with DoorDash, with Uber Eats, with Amazon, with Target. Those are who you guys are going to likely for last minute gifting, but you should be going to Edible, because the Edible unique advantage that would make this, this e-commerce company really has this distinctly unique selling point. We can get a product to 70% of the US within an hour hand delivered. People can't say that outside of about us and Amazon. So that's the really unique thing that we've built here with building this e-commerce brand that is powered by a franchise brand, or business unit that's powered by a franchise brand, is we have that last mile. So we really think of ourselves as first click to last mile.
And that last mile is hand delivered,
Yes.
packaged, beautiful as you saw there. It's not in a brown box that piles up on your porch. You know. So it's more of an experience. You know.
Yeah. Little tactical, but I'm trying to figure this out for my brand, so I'm asking for selfish reasons. But so you do e-commerce. What happens if somebody is like smack dab in the middle of two franchises? How do you allocate the credit or the revenue that comes from orders that may be a little bit, in the middle of two franchisees? Or
it's an e-commerce question.
Yeah, right now.
Legal?
You can take it.
Right now, the allocation is somewhat random. The order is placed on the website, and it will go to one of the stores who services that zip code, and it will be assigned randomly. That's actually something that we're thinking through. And to go back to your prior question, if anything, our franchisees might benefit too much from our e-commerce. Our business model is, yes, e-commerce is a component of it, but you franchisee, you operate your own retail store. You should be driving local customers. You should be selling products in your store, not just acting as a delivery fulfillment center. So, one thing we're considering, could we incentivize franchisees to earn the e-commerce by how they perform in their in-store sales. We're looking at that. So it's been a challenge over the last few years to try to balance these, of being a very successful e-commerce company that is dependent on your franchisees solely for creating and delivering your products. And we're really unique in that respect.
You are.
Most
yeah.
franchise brands do not have that volume of direct sales to their customers.
Yeah.
It's done through their franchisees.
Yeah, that's super impressive, interesting. Talk to me a little bit about, like, let's get real here. I know you guys are aligned, and I know that you do a really good job of keeping everybody up to date, but it doesn't always happen, right? So talk to me. You mean you're not perfect? Talk to me, though, about when there is a misstep among your executive team, or maybe you are all aligned, but the message doesn't get trickled down to your teams. What does that look like in your org? How do you handle it?
I think this is a Faraz, he could be a great example, but I think right now we've got too many things going on.
Yeah.
And we've got to make choices. So do you want to talk about like tech priorities, for example? Because we're all dependent on tech.
Yeah, so I think one of the things is what we've been looking at is, as an executive team, okay, what are the top things that we're working on from a technology point of view, right? So Edible Brands is heavily technology centric, right? If you were to ask our founder in the early days, he would say we're a tech company that sells fruit. A lot different now, right? But when we're looking at okay, what are the priorities that we have, then that's an opportunity now for all the executives to come in and say, okay, well, what Erica was saying before, where does my priority kind of fit into this? And then going back to the AOP saying, okay, what are our goals and how are we going to kind of handle this? Now, in those conversations, there can be misses, right? So there can be like, oh, wait a minute, we missed something. We were trying to drive revenue here, but we were really focusing on this. Why did we focus on this? Oh, because it was an easy thing to do, right? It was easy to just knock it out and we can get it done. And those are the moments where we sit down and talk and say, okay, well, it may have been easy to do, but was it really on path of what we really needed to get done? And that's where it's kind of bringing the team together and making the team understand what our business goals are. You see, at the executive layer, if we may be aligned, but if the broader teams are not aware that, hey, we're revenue centric, or as an example, these are what our goals are, then it'll prevent them from saying, well, I just did this because it was so easy. It's more like, oh no, we got to stay focused on what the North Star is. And I think those are areas of opportunity that we continually have. We've been improving on, but it's an area that we're saying that, no, let's make sure that, and these huddles make a big difference where we're talking about the business and where we want to go. And then also, just our priorities, making sure everyone sees our priorities. It's just not an executive team meeting we're showing here's what our top 20 is, but it's actually the broader team saying, here's what our top 20 is as an organization, and here's what everyone is working on. So that makes a difference. It's always evolving. It's always iterative. It's not perfect. And it's not. And if anyone tells you it's perfect, I would challenge them, because these are things that are always moving, iterative. We're always moving fast. Some initiative comes up. Now we look at that initiative and we say, okay, how are we going to manage that across everything else? And in that controlled chaos, you can have some things that drop. But the key part is, don't let that drop happen too long, that you can pick it up and move forward from there. So that's some of the tactics that are used there.
Interesting. Okay, so prior to Massage Luxe, I was at a platform brand, and we were a shared service model. And one of our brands had 5,000 units, and then we had 6 minority brands with 100 units, 6 units, whatever. And what I quickly realized is while the 5,000 unit franchise drove the most revenue, it was the smaller brands that actually needed more of our resources and our support and shared service, and it was this constant bill back to brand. Brand can't cover it, well then we'll have the bigger brand cover it, and it was this pull between the leaders of the brands. Talk to me a little bit about how you're going to do this, because you're about to franchise a brand with 17 units. You've got Edible at what, over 1,000 units?
Just about 700.
Yeah, okay. And then you've got your e-commerce business. Who's going to win? How are you going to prioritize all of the work that needs to happen to lift this brand up?
I think that's what goes back to just the fact that we are all shared services. We are all bought into the vision of the entire portfolio. We do have business unit leaders over each individual brand, and that's important, right? Because at the end of the day, when it gets down to, I'm going to continue picking on Faraz, but Faraz is saying, I've got all this to do, what do I do first? Those business unit leaders are going to make their best case, and then ultimately there are those conversations that bubble up to Soumya, and it's, Soumya as CEO, what is the next step that we're going to be making here? But I think that we really are tackling that from the root by saying it's not Erica's focused on edible arrangements and Kevin's focused on roti and Faraz's, we are all focused on the growth of all. And I think that allows us to wear that hat of where are our resources best spent now to accomplish, our goals overall. And we also keep that goal list short. Like we're talking about a lot of initiative lists, but the real AOP, what are we setting to do? That's no more than 5 key things for the year.
Okay, 5 key things for the year.
But I would also say, again, I'm Mr. Transparent. We're not there yet. We're still working through this.
Yeah.
This is new for us. Roti was what, December of last year. Edibles was February. So I think, the biggest challenge I have, I know Erica and all of us do, is resources. So I get pinched and, I manage Studio E. That's our in-house agency, basically. All of a sudden, Roti, all of them all at the same time need a ton of stuff going through the goose. It is very difficult. Then I have to make a case for resources. I know Erica does that, Faraz, all of us do. I know even Doug with attorneys, outside counsel versus in. So I think it's really being very judicious about staying to the course, and now we're going to have to get better at planning ahead, so we don't get caught, flat-footed.
Yeah. So your goals, I wonder, because your goals, my goals are around revenue. I want to achieve a certain amount of revenue, of course, and EBITDA. But given your situation and the fact that you're trying new business units, if you set a goal for revenue, your edible franchise that's going to drive that revenue, right? How do you set goals to make sure that you're positioning the smaller units that you're building up for success?
Well, I would even look at our goals, and those goals are not hit this number. We have those goals. One of the goals is growing footprint. So growing footprint can look like acquiring 17 roti units. That is Edible Brands growing our footprint. And by the way, we're just launched our edible dessert line in our roti system. So we're finding ways to cross-functionally and collaborate across the brands, accomplish those goals, but because we have decided to platform, we're specific about our goals not to necessarily be tied to a specific brand, but really looking at, for the portfolio at large, what are we aiming to do, and how can we set goals that doesn't require us to argue over which brand is going to be the one.
What's fun is when a special opportunity comes up, like this opportunity at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The last thing I want to do is hey, let's make all of our work chaos for the next 90 days. But we all agreed, okay, are we all hands in on this? Because this is a really great and unique opportunity. It's a platform opportunity for us in a very iconic environment. So that was not planned, but it still follows the objectives and the goals we had for the year. Yeah. So you have to be nimble. And when we agree to something, we're pretty good about saying, okay, well, we agreed to this. We got to make it happen.
Okay. I love this. Okay, so internally aligned, clearly. What about your partners? You mentioned you have an internal marketing agency. I want to hear a little bit about how you bring your partners externally along on this journey with you, because that's a huge piece of the alignment that needs to happen, obviously, with your brand.
I think it's like everything is about clarity of vision and what we're trying to do and being really concise and clear. Like in my world in marketing, we do rely on some external agencies, but we do more than any job I've had in my career, we do the lion's share in-house. So really getting them on board, this afternoon I have a call with one actually, explaining what the opportunity is on Roti and how we've acquired this brand, but the design standards they're kind of all over the map. So it's just things like that. It's being very clear. And I always like to have documentation. I don't like to create PowerPoints, but I like to have something that I can quickly send to them. It's hey, here's what we're trying to achieve.
Do you bring your partners together? Like when I was at SEB, I love this. I want to do this at Massage Lux. We just haven't yet. We had partnership summits. And so all of our external partners would come together and we would explain the goals for the year, big picture. Who are we? What are we trying to do? And this is how you fit. This is how you fit. Do you do anything like that?
Yeah, we used to call the IMC kickoff. I don't know if you remember that on the marketing side.
Yeah.
Yes, we do that. In fact, our PR firms are a great example. We have 3, Franchise Development, Edibles.com, and of course, Edible. But we have to air traffic control all that strategically and also tactically. So we get together, at least once a quarter on Teams, and then we'll get together physically. They'll come to the office. And that's repeated with all of our partners in all our areas.
Awesome. Great. Can you talk to me a little bit about your executive team? So obviously you guys, who else makes up that team?
It's just us. No, I'm just kidding. We have a new president just joined us in the past couple of months that we're super excited about, Matt Walls. He's coming to us from Caribou and Young Brands, but he is really leading the charge on all of our retail growth. But we have areas of operation, supply chain, innovation. Our chief innovation officer, I think, is here already.
HR.
HR.
Ops?
Ops.
Ops,
Ops
yep.
falling under our president.
Yeah.
And development, which is
Yep.
our president as well. So he's Chief Stores Officer and also development. So, and he's fantastic at this. I'm so excited he came.
Yep.
Because, I just saw the franchise development. I know you guys have a lot of content around that. Obviously it's a really important area for us if we're gonna grow our footprint. So
Yeah.
he's handling that.
Franchise development. Okay, you guys are busy. You've got a lot of meetings, it feels, which is great. Franchise development, let's talk about a minute. Are you meeting with your potential candidates, you as the leaders of the department, so you're involved in that whole process too then?
Yep. Okay. We approach that pretty cross-functionally as well, the buzzword of the hour. But yeah, I think that's important because to Doug's point, the digital business is a large part currently for the edible arrangement franchisee. So it's important that we understand their digital savviness. They don't have to be an e-commerce expert, but understanding that degree. But then, we want to make sure from a marketing and a technology standpoint, we have a well-rounded candidate. I think that's something that's been helping us find successful franchisees.
We interview every one of them. So at the end of the process, myself, Angela, any one of us will interview at the last stage, just for a gut check, basically. We're pretty good about that. We had a couple misses, but human
Haven't we
behavior.
all?
But generally, yeah, it's been really important because you want to have people to buy into what we're about and where we're going. I've had that in previous roles. Orange Theory, we interviewed, are you passionate about the fitness business? No, it's just, it's a great income source. That's not really a good fit for us because, at Edible, we want it to be customer focused or Roti or any one of our brands, so.
I know that I'm going to go to bed tonight, thinking about your expansion, and it's going to keep me up because it is, you're new in this space, you're new in platforming, you're all relatively new to edibles, within the last 5 years less, right? What keeps you up at night?
For me, it is the footprint growth.
Well, for me, it depends on the week.
Yeah.
The past week, we thought that hemp was going to be illegal in Texas. I kept checking the news Sunday, which was the deadline for Governor Abbott to veto the law that would go into effect. If he didn't veto it, it was like going to bed on when you're waiting for the end of a sports game. So I didn't see it until 4 o'clock when I woke up Monday morning that he had vetoed the bill. So that's something that keeps me up at night, just the changes in law as we're moving into a new regulated industry.
I'm worried not worried, I think about it in the middle of the night. AI, it's going to transform everything. It's already transforming marketing. It's just keeping up with the speed of it is somewhat overwhelming at times, if I'm being honest. And I'm not the only person. I have CMO roundtables I go to. They're all struggling with it. And how do you build and maintain a brand in an era where things are user generated? That is a different world. It's very different. So, and as we're trying to build equity in these 3 brands we're talking about, it's going to be very different looking. It will not be ads like you just saw in this time next year.
I think security is another area that keeps me up at night because just pulling the thread on AI, you've seen AI now enter into how bad actors get into companies. Some of you may have heard, there was a pretty large company where they ended up doing a financial transfer because they generated an AI video of the CEO saying, "Go ahead, I approve." And so these things have become so real now that, you look at the emails are starting to become looking more real, more legitimate. You have voice, you can mimic video. So there's a lot of things now that bad actors are doing that you have to kind of continue to stay ahead of. And AI just makes it even, exponentially kind of grows that thread as well too. So staying on top of that, making sure you have the right tools, but even more importantly, educating your employee base and your contractor base, making people aware what are the threats out there and what's going on, and making sure you stay ahead of that training as well too. So those are some of the things that keep me up at night, as long as some of the other things.
Erica, what keeps you up?
But we use edibles to help us sleep, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yes, naturally, right?
Yes, we have a solution for that.
Right,
Yeah,
we've got a
really good.
solution.
Did you bring samples?
Maybe. Meet me in the corridor and
I think it's our footprint growth and why we're all so excited. We've been not so much focused on the operational side this morning, but really excited for the change and just the next generation of our retail footprint. Because at the end of the day, for our e-commerce businesses, we can only grow as much as our retail and our franchise system grows. And so it really is a cyclical partnership. It's not one versus the other. Like, we cannot be successful from an e-commerce standpoint if our franchisees are not successful. So we have the right plans, I think, in place, but that's something that, like, constantly tinkering in my mind of how can we continue to expand that relationship and enable our franchise partners to feel like they can take on more from what we're doing in the digital space.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm a big fan of internal marketing agencies, and I love them, and I have one, and they're amazing. Stephanie's sitting over there, and she runs it, and it's great.
Hi, Stephanie. Bless you.
One of the things that worries me, though, about my internal marketing agency is exactly what you just brought up. AI is moving fast, and you have to be careful with security, and there's so much change happening. How do you stay on top of it, knowing that these people have other things to do in their job, not just read about the latest, greatest in AI or in, ad tech, or, this space is moving fast. How do you stay on top?
I mean, environments like this, I go to conferences.
Yeah.
I'm going through the Digital Marketing Institute certification in AI because I need to understand it. Because my team is, like you said, they've got a million other things to do. So I need to help set the priorities for them. And I partner with Faraz, Erica, and we learn from each other. And even with Somi, I explained to her as an in-house agency, sometimes I need an outside resource. The best brands grow when they have an outside perspective helping them navigate these kind of changes. So I'm not an expert in everything. There's no expert in AI, by the way. That doesn't exist. So we're just trying, my job is to really navigate where we're gonna try and innovate first. And I think for us right now, for example, it's in content development, right? And it's gonna be, so you're gonna see the content putting out from marketing, in-house agencies go exponentially 200% more content a year. So it's iterative storytelling, which is awesome, but at the same time, how are we gonna achieve that? What's the legal implications? There's just a million questions that we're just navigating right now, but I'm damned determined to figure it out quickly, because it's awesome, at the same time, a little overwhelming.
I think LinkedIn too. I mean, this is so
LinkedIn is
random,
great.
but very
Yeah,
tactical.
great.
Like, I think companies have started to become so transparent, and I love it about what they're doing, especially in the e-commerce space, but in franchising too. I mean, you'll see these posts, it's like, here's our tech stack, here's our revenue last month, here's how we're growing. I'm like, screenshots.
I do that all the time.
Because you really can learn from your competitors out there that are being, that can become, your friends on LinkedIn. And so it's a random tactical thing, but I feel like there's so much great content sitting in front of us on LinkedIn these days that can kind of help guide where should I be paying attention.
I mean, to pull that thread as an example, I think about AI, and because people search companies out that way. And I'm responsible for our company's reputation. On LinkedIn, they show you where most of the sources coming from OpenAI. Wikipedia actually is a thing still. Different sources that are really important. So I know where to focus on tuning up that content, throughout the digital ecosystem.
I think also.
But I learned on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So.
I think also creating some peer groups, like for me, I lean on a lot of peer groups as well too. So like if I'm coming across a challenge, it's a safe space. So it's not something that's gonna get like blurted out there, but it's more like, hey, how are you guys dealing with this challenge? Or have you seen something like this? Are you all implementing AI? What are some of the things that you're seeing and some of the trends? And those peer groups are really, really helpful, especially if you create a safe space amongst yourself. So I personally think that if you go out there and you find your peers who are in the same different industry, same industry, but they're fighting the same battles or trying to understand what's going on, that really creates a lot of good synergies and a lot of learning as well too. And that's been very, very helpful for me as well too. And I get a lot of these from these conferences as well. You come to these conferences, you make some contacts. All right, let's make a small group and let's talk, right, and things like that. So
I think that's where the Brene Brown in me kind of comes out. When I speak at conferences like this, I don't say we've got it all figured out. I'm pretty, Erica and all these team know, I'll just say a lot of things like, oh my God, he didn't just say that. But I get feedback immediately after on LinkedIn, like, thank you for admitting what we're all struggling with. We don't learn unless we figure it out there in the open together.
Yeah.
So I think it's beneficial in environments like this to say what we haven't figured out and what we're working on.
Yeah.
And I literally, I'll get 20, 30 messages after that saying, asking me questions, and I'll ask them questions. And so, to Faraz's point, that's how I learn too, from other peers.
Yeah.
We have talked a lot about all of the things that work, but I think it's important to underline our culture is what has allowed us, I think, to operate this fast, because it is a culture of failing fast, and failing is okay. And I think that's really important, and I think, Soumya and Tarek have instilled that in all of us as leaders, but we're instilling that in our teams too. If you're not failing, you're not doing enough, and you're not pushing yourself enough. So I'm not nervous to come to even an executive meeting and say, okay guys, I know I was responsible for this and we tested this and it actually completely fell flat on its face, or I wasn't even able to accomplish it and here's why. But the trust that we've built in each other, and just also though the culture that we have as a company where it is okay, but let's do it fast and let's learn and go on to the next iteration. I think that's what it allows us to get on stage and talk about all the great things that we have and the things that are working for us, because we also know there's a lot of things that aren't, but we have a culture that's supporting us continuing to evolve.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It feels like it's not just words on a wall. I can feel your culture coming through. How do you get that to your team? Because it's one thing to align to a culture as leaders. What about all the people that are working for you? How do you get them to buy in?
That's partly the huddles I mentioned earlier, weekly, and that's a really good platform for that. And we have it open for anyone can come up to the mic, so it's not like it's only us talking. We just host it. So that's one avenue. But I think, to Erica's point, our culture is very much fail fast, and people feel free to come into any one of our offices or even to our CEO, Soumya, and share an idea or something. So there's I think that fear-based culture, which I'm sure all of us have worked for in environments like that, which are not fun. I think that is the secret sauce,
Okay, so we're zooming out. It's a year from now. What do your roles look like? How are they going to change with all of this going on?
I can kick
You want to
it
kick
off. Yeah.
any one of us?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully a year from now, we've done a couple of exciting things. We're launching a new marketplace experience on edible.com in the next couple of months. That's going to really change how people are shopping and gifting with Edible. But zooming even further out from that, as Edible Brands, I think it looks a lot like footprint growth, and I think it looks a lot, and I'm going to kind of throw this over in a certain direction, but a lot more reliance on technology and AI. And I know that's the buzzword that everyone's so sick of hearing about, but we're really invested in figuring out how to work smarter and not harder. And we said 100 people, and that seems like a lot of people. It's really not a lot of people at the end of the day when you look at the to-do list and all of these brands. So I think AI is going to be a really big part of our next year.
Yeah, I think one of the things we're working on launching is an AI Center of Excellence at Edible Brands. And now, again, not slogan talk, but what we're actually looking at is we're being very intentional on where AI makes sense in the business. And we're also looking at how can we look horizontally, because we just talked about we have multiple brands. So you just can't have AI focused in one area. You have to look at, okay, what tools are we looking to use? And then how do we look at that horizontally to make sure it makes sense for everyone? And one of the key things we're looking at is our data, right? We have a lot of data. We've been in business for 25 years. That doesn't mean much, really, because you have to look at the data, you have to understand the data, and you have to say, okay, what data can be used when we're looking at AI and what problem do we want to solve? So looking future forward in terms of as we're building solutions, as we're stitching other partners together and other solutions together, how do we get the right data to make sure we're moving in the right direction? So all this is, when you're saying a year from now, we're already starting to stitch this together, but a year from now, we would like to see more maturity in that. To say, okay, here's what the results we're seeing from this AI-centric approach. But again, being very intentional. It's not a spray and pray. It's not, let's just hit AI everywhere and maybe something will get smart. I argue that if you don't do it right, you can get dumb intelligence. You can have really bad data, make really poor decisions, and have really bad ROI. And so it's really important that we really kind of hone in on intentionally where we want to be and what we want to focus on from there.
How are you showing this data? Are you using a Power BI or a Tableau? And is it something that is displayed in your office? Is it emailed out? How?
Power BI.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
and even more tactically, because I think AI can feel really big. We're imagining a world next year where an FBC is not having to pick up the phone and talk to a franchisee who's going, I think that maybe if I ran this in-store promotion, it could be successful. What do you think about X, Y, and Z? They literally would have a Edible chat bot where they can go, this is what I'm thinking, what do you suggest? And based on the 25 years of data of the hundreds of franchisees before them who have had success and failures, give back response and say, here's how I would do it. So that's the tactical approach of how we're thinking all of this 25 years of data can not just help our corporate teams, obviously it's going to be a benefit for us, but for our franchisees, help them, empower them to get smarter, start working smarter in their local market.
It's the most exciting thing, personally, I'm excited about, because I think we all struggle with scale and franchisee engagement, and nowadays there's just so much information. So we're rolling this out, this OpenAI, we partner with them to what Eric is describing is it's basically local store marketing. You know, their job is to delight people and to deliver and to make beautiful products, not to worry about marketing. That's the last thing I want them to worry about, but I need them to do it. So they can simply go in now. It's all closed, so no one's going to go in there and hack it. It's our own information. But
You built it?
We're building it with OpenAI.
OpenAI, yeah.
And so my team creates 23 local store marketing guides a year that we really believe 10% of the system is really leveraging, which is terrible. But it's not because they're terrible people, it's because they've got a lot of priorities.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that's back on me. How can I make it easier for them? Enter Faraz, I'm like, Faraz, I've got a problem. And then he's like, well, I got a solution. So we're gonna iterate with it, but I'm really excited because I want our franchisees to have success. Their success is our success. And my ability and our ability to communicate and give them the tools to do it easily makes it all much more easier for them.
Doug, does this make you nervous at all that you have AI giving advice to franchisees?
Oh yeah, I mean, we don't really know, we don't understand AI enough and the legal implications. Once you put something into the platform, it's out in the open. And so right now we have a policy for employee use of AI for using open platforms within the workplace. Then we'll have to create a new policy when we roll this out. But then when you introduce franchisees into the fold, you know, that changes things as well. We don't really know what that's going to look like, but we're going to have to work through that to make sure that franchisees understand what they can put into AI and how we protect proprietary information with this platform.
You just brought up a really good point, and I'm like, shit, I need to do that. You can put a lot into AI, and then it's out in the open.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that policy. What is the policy?
Well, the policy is do not put anything proprietary into an open platform.
Great policy.
Yeah. But again, how do you regulate that? You
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
And once it's in the platform, it's in the platform.
Yeah.
So, you know, the policy says do not use it to write code, for example. But, you know, the engineers, they want to play with code in
Yeah.
AI. So it's,
Don't put our financial information in there.
yeah, do not put financial information. Nothing, you know, don't put anything in it that you would put in an email to a third party, essentially. But again, it's hard to regulate. So in some ways, going to this closed platform will help that.
Yeah.
And then the policy will be do not use open platforms anymore once we're comfortable with this.
Yeah.
And we know that it works.
I think to your point, right, like there's a curiosity. If I were to ask like how many of you use ChatGPT or the like in this audience, I'm sure there'd be some hands that get raised. And so people are already using it. And to your point, it's very hard to regulate, but if you give them a channel to say, okay, but here's a form of it and a more secure and safe way of doing it, they'll lean that way because they're used to doing it. So it's also about understanding habits and how can you take that energy and put it in a more secure space so that way you try to reduce, it doesn't get rid of it, but at least mitigate some of that risk. Right?
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna bring this back to the silo conversation, which is why we're here. If everybody went back to their offices tomorrow and implemented something tangible that would break down or start to break down the silos in their organization, what would that advice be from you?
My advice would be look at the people that are your colleagues, that your peers, and if you do not know their goals, go figure out what their goals are. Hopefully you have the same goals, but if you don't, understand what their goals are, let that be the first starting point, because that's going to help conversations, cross-functional meetings. It's going to open up a lot of opportunity to take down silos.
And I think really starting at the top with your CEO, like pressure test the AOP, like what is the goal for the year, you know, or the goals and initiatives, and get alignment on that. Once you have that, then that can cascade to everybody. But if there's all these random, you know, initiatives and there's not a central goal that you're working towards, it's hard to achieve that. So I think that would be really get aligned and clear on what those corporate or company franchisor goals are for your franchisees, and be choiceful about which ones you want to focus on. Don't get overwhelmed.
Love it.
You know, I would say, I mean, very similar, without repeating, understand the business, no matter what department you're in. And then the key thing is understand the other point of view. So when you're working cross-functionally, understand the point of view that the other team member is coming from to have a better understanding and appreciation of the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think that's important. Make sure the people on your team understand not just what they're doing, but why they're doing it, how it ties into the department goals for this time, and how that ties into the overall company goals. And like Erica said, just share goals, communicate about them frequently, revise goals, they will change. as you dig into projects, and hold each other accountable with some tough love.
Yeah.
Use tools, track progress. We use Monday. I mean, that's one
Yeah.
way that.
Okay, so you're using Monday. Okay, great, awesome, and you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, I know at any minute, just like all of us in our respective departments, like, am I delivering what Erica needs for a launch for Marketplace?
Yeah.
You know, so I can look at that instantly.
Yeah, okay, awesome, I love it. You just brought up tough love, and that was gonna be something that I was gonna segue into. When there is a disagreement among you, how do you figure out who wins in what scenario? And same with brand, how do you figure out which brand, like I said, what brand wins, what person wins with their agenda?
Yeah.
We have an arm wrestling table.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will take you on, it's a sneaky trick of mine. I'm very good, I will not win, but I won't lose, I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be about winning. It should be about finding a common ground, you know, overall. I mean, yeah, sometimes somebody's going to have to relent. You can't take two positions. But really, a lot of our collaboration, you know, we might be presented with A or B, and we end up doing C, and it achieves both, or it achieves what we're looking for in both.
And I always think about it in terms of like even personal relationships, a healthy personal relationship. It's not about winning, to Doug's point, it's about being on the same team.
Yeah.
And it's not about me winning in marketing, it's about us winning. And sometimes I'm great at that, sometimes I'm not so great at that. But it's something I always strive towards. And I think if we kind of look, we get along, you know, and that's important to me personally. And I think each of us are invested in this. So it's really being goal focused and like, hey, we're all on the same team and we're all gonna get there.
Yeah.
And by the way, one player doesn't just kick the ball into the soccer goal. It's a team that gets it there. So I think that's always what we try to think about.
Yeah, I love it, that's great. So any parting words, I wanna make sure that I give you the stage. If you have anything else to share with the team, we've got like 2 minutes left. So take it away, anything you wanna share?
We have a gift.
Yes, we do
We
have
do have a gift.
We love gifts.
For you, we're gifting.
Yes, so if you go to the next slide, I think there's an offer code, edible FCXC, you can get 15% off. So
Is this for the weed, or is this for the fruit?
That is honestly
This
best
is
question of the morning.
great question, Kristen.
Yeah, you asked about next year, so maybe next year we can give you a code
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
We'll be back next year with a code for the weed. No, but I mean, thank you. Thank you, Kristen, for
Thank
hosting
you.
us. And thank you guys all for having us. And I think overall, we're excited to share about edibles evolution. And just overall, I think the key theme is as 4 executives over very different departments with very different daily functions and operations, we're very invested in where Edible Brands is headed. And I think that investment personally is helping us all work together really collaboratively well and as a team. So we're grateful to be here to share our story.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I've known Edible Arrangement. Scott is a good friend of mine that I was talking to you about. Scott Greenberg's amazing. Known about the brand, but since meeting you a couple of weeks ago, and certainly after this panel, I'm a fan. Like, I'm bought in. So I can't wait to see what next year looks like. And I can't wait to check in with you guys to see how it's going with everything that you've got going on. So thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah, of course. Awesome. Can we